Suga himself stated that he didn't descend from royalty, but that he was related to royalty because some members of his clan, the Yeonong-min clan, married into royal clan and became empresses instead of just being consorts. But make no mistake, even if they just married into the royal clan, they more than proved their brilliance in science, politics, and leadership. In fact, Empress Myeongsong or Queen Min was Korea's last royal defense against Japan. Even though it was her husband ruling the country, it was her keeping it together. She was powerful, so intelligent that it was her that Japan assassinated, not the king. But before we go any further, let's just discuss briefly the origins of the Yunong Min clan. The Yonong Min clan traces its ancestry to Min Ching-do, a scholar and official during the Goryeo dynasty. The Bongwan or ancestral home is Yeoju, now part of the modern Gyeonggi province. They weren't born into royalty, they married into it. They produced several queens, but no one comes close to Queen Min, also known as Empress Myeongsong, real name Min Ja-hyung. Empress Myeongsong, the visionary and the threat. Joseon Korea was falling apart in the late 19th century. China, Japan, and Russia were fighting over control of Korea. Most royal consorts in Joseon were expected to be passive and quiet. Queen Min? She had other plans. She modernized Korea before it was cool. While most of the royal court was stuck in old Confucian traditions, Empress Myeongsong realized that Joseon needed to modernize fast to survive foreign threats. So, she pushed for modern education. She brought in Western teachers and technology. She strengthened Korea's military, hiring American military instructors. She built diplomatic ties with Russia, China, and the US to counter Japanese influence, and she advocated for economic and legal reforms to modernize Joseon's government. The thing is that most court officials at that time opposed modernization, but she knew Korea had to adapt to survive. Her reforms laid the foundation for modern Korean industries and governance. Without the foundation she laid, Korea wouldn't be the economic powerhouse it is today. And more importantly, she played 4D chess with global powers. When she became queen, Joseon was caught between Japan, China, and Russia, all trying to control Korea like a pawn. Gojong, the king, he didn't have a clear strategy, but Empress Myeongsong, she did. First, she allied with China to counter Japan's early influence, and then brought in Russia when Japan got too aggressive. And then she secretly negotiated with the US and other Western powers for diplomatic support. Instead of fighting Japan head on, which Korea would have lost, she tried to create a balance of power by getting bigger players involved. Her moves delayed Japanese colonization for years. Japan saw her as a direct threat because she was blocking their control over Korea. Japanese officials literally called her an obstacle that must be removed. Japan saw that Empress Myeongsong's modernization efforts threatened the old Korean aristocracy or the Yangban, who wanted to keep their power, but Japan wanted a weak, outdated Korea they could easily control. So Japanese agents and pro-Japanese Korean soldiers stormed Gyeongbokgung Palace at dawn. They murdered Empress Myeongsong in her private quarters. Her body was burned and discarded to erase evidence. After the assassination, King Gojong was so terrified that he fled the royal palace in disguise in 1896 and took refuge in the Russian legation or embassy for over a year. But perhaps Empress Myeongsong's involvement and influence in Korea's political affairs wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for another Min queen. Queen Inhyeon, the virtuous queen of Joseon. Queen Inhyeon's story is the ultimate historical K-drama featuring love, betrayal, palace, politics, and one of the most tragic yet dignified royal comebacks in Korean history. She was the beloved wife of King Sukjong, the victim of a ruthless court faction war and a symbol of dignity even in exile. She married King Sukjon, the 19th king of Joseon, who reigned from 1674 to 1720. But she was caught in the messiest love triangle in Joseon history. So here's what happened. Queen Inyeon was King Sukjong's rightful queen, chosen from an aristocratic family. But Sukjong fell in love with Jang Wi-bin, a concubine from a lower class who wanted to be queen. Jing Wi-bin and her political allies, the Soron faction, started plotting against Queen Inyeon. They spread rumors that Queen Inyeon was plotting against the king, so they convinced King Sukjon to strip her of her title and exile her in 1689. And the king was so smitten with Jung Wi-bin, he actually believed her. When Sukjong exiled Queen Inyeon, Jang Wi-bin became a nightmare. She and her faction started killing anyone who opposed them, even royal ministers. They controlled court decisions, making Sukjong feel like he was being manipulated. She even pressured the king to kill Queen Inyeon, which shocked him. Factional wars became worse than ever, and King Sukjong hated political division. Finally, people who have been loyal to Queen Inyeon made the king realize that even in exile, Queen Inyeon has maintained her dignity. She never once plotted against him, despite being unjustly exiled. She never tried to gather a political faction to fight back, even though she could have. In 1694, Sukjong restored Queen Inyeon to her rightful place as queen and demoted Jang Wi-bin back to being a concubine. Now, what would you do if you were falsely accused of plotting to kill your husband, exiled for 3 years because of the mistress? You would at least have some amount of revenge, right? But not Queen Inyeon. She promoted reconciliation instead of revenge. After 6 years in exile, Queen Inyeon returned to a palace filled with division, political revenge, and lingering tensions. The court was split between the factions that supported her and those who supported Jang Wi-bin. But instead of purging her enemies, she forgave many of the officials who had sided against her, inviting them back to the palace and working with them. She encouraged King Sukjong to focus on governance instead of endless factional battles. She concentrated on refocusing on Confucian ideals. Joseon society was built on Confucian ideals, and Queen Inyeon embodied them perfectly: loyal, wise, and selfless. She refocused the court on traditional ethics instead of power struggles. Her influence encouraged the king to govern with Confucian principles rather than being swayed by emotions or factions. Before Queen Inyeon, queens were often overshadowed by concubines and court politics. Her return and influence proved that a queen consort had a vital role in stabilizing the nation. After her reign, future queens were more respected as figures of virtue and wisdom. She set the standard for what a Joseon queen should be: gracious, politically aware, and the guardian of Confucian values. After her reign, Joseon society placed more importance on the role of a wise and virtuous queen, and that is the same value Empress Myeongsong embodied, and that allowed her to exercise her political strategies that protected Korea for years and changed the country forever. In 1701, Sukjong found out that Jang Wi-bin actually performed shamanistic rituals to try and kill Queen Inhyeon. He ordered Jang Weibin's execution. She was forced to drink poison in 1701. Sukjong never promoted anyone else to be queen for the rest of his reign. From Queen Inyon to Empress Myeongsong to Min Yoongi, the legacy of quiet strength. History has a way of repeating itself, not in exact events, but in the spirit of those who lead. Queen Inyon didn't command armies or wield power with an iron fist, yet she remains one of the most respected figures in Joseon history. Why? Because she ruled with grace, intellect, and quiet strength. She proved that true power isn't about revenge, it's about resilience. And Empress Myeongsong saw the future of Korea before anyone else did. She fought for modernization, diplomacy, and progress. But she was ahead of her time, and history wasn't ready for her. And now, Min Yoongi is carrying the very same legacy. While others were chasing trends, he was creating music ahead of his time. Just like Myeongsong envisioned a Korea that could stand on its own. Instead of seeking revenge on those who doubted him, he let his music speak for itself, lifting Korean art onto the world stage. So, whether it's Queen who endured exile, an empress who fought for Korea's future, or a rapper who's shaping its global sound, one thing is clear: real leaders don't waste time looking back at those who doubted them. They keep moving forward, and in doing so, they change history. Many people say Suga is a man made by a woman. Well, if you're talking about these types of women, I'd say the bloodline is strong. But make no mistake, Min Yoongi is his own man, his own king, and he will reign over his kingdom for many years to come.
I hope that was fun for you. I definitely had fun doing it, and I can do more. Let me know if you like these types of video. I'm trying to make it as concise as possible, but also entertaining. But I also hope that you are learning from them. Thank you so much. If you ended up liking this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that notification button. And please share the video if you can. It's really helping my channel. Also, follow me on X or on Twitter and on Instagram, and also follow me on Patreon. We do have a free tier just in case you want to try things out. Lots of great discussions happening there, not just about BTS, not just about K-pop, but about movies, TV shows, and books. I'll see you there. Thank you.